Hey guys, how we going? Doing this without the screen recorder on today. Or my face, anyway. Don't need to see it. Um, Rather than try and type this up onto the website, thought I'd just do a quick recording. Would have taken me ages to transfer this all over onto the MFL thread. Um, just going over the playoff scenarios. We've got 2 weeks left. 4 potential wins for each team. Um, it's crazy how little has been decided at this point. Most divisions are pretty damn crazy right across the board. Not the least of which the first one I'm running with. The top team in in this division, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. In this conference, I mean. Sorry. Yeah, top team in this conference, Brooklyn Lions. Um, they are. I've got them in the playoffs. Um, there's a probably a ridiculous world that exists where they where there's a chance they don't make the playoffs, but it's not happening. They'll be in the playoffs. I got a win and a Wolverines loss would likely clinch the division title. Um, Anything that stretched it out to about a 2-win lead, I think, would be insurmountable for the Wolverines in in next week's games. I know we can get big point swings in games, but you're looking at almost a 200-point gap between the Lions and Wolverines right now. To me, that's not insurmountable, but I'd be stunned if that got overturned in 2 weeks. So yeah, I've got Jake's Lions teams in the playoffs as far as I'm concerned, and probably tough game up against the Detroit Tigers this week. That could go either way. I think Jared's already beaten Jake in this league so far this season. So yeah, if Jake has an off week, he can definitely roll him, and that opens up the division crown and obviously playoff buys and all this sort of stuff. So, um, in the Thorpe division, Staten Island pretty much look like they've got the division just about wrapped up. Pretty much, uh, no offense to Paddy here, definitely an easier matchup for Staten Island this week. Pat's team's been pretty ice cold this season, and currently sitting at 4-16. You wouldn't predict that they'll take any wins off of Staten Island this week. I've got a win and a loss by the Muncie Flyers this week would be enough to win the division for Staten Island. And a Lions loss with a Stapletons win would open up the shot for Staten Island to be a chance for the number one seed in the playoffs. So that'll be pretty close. You're looking about an 80-point gap there at the moment on the tiebreaker for a head-to-head tiebreaker. So yeah, not much has resolved there. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got the Detroit Panthers definitely on the outside looking in, needing pretty much, I think, most likely needs to take 4 wins from the next 2 weeks. Take tough games, but games that they need to be a chance of winning, or need to be winning to be making the playoffs anyway. Redskins are a team that are ahead of them. So a head-to-head win and a bonus win would be a huge result there. And given the Panthers' point total, they pretty much need to definitely win out, and that might not even be enough to get them into the playoffs, but they need to win out a chance. Redskins, who sit just ahead of them in the standings, definitely in a better position points-wise. 2 wins ahead as well. So, yeah, like I said, that's a huge game for Detroit this week. I think a loss there is pretty much... Yeah, that's pretty much toast for Detroit, I think, if they lose this week. The Panthers, that is. I don't think you can come back from there. Big game between Milwaukee and Muncie. 1 game between them. Points, yeah, what are you looking at? About 70 to 80 point gap. As I've said, that can get flipped over pretty quickly. Big game, actually. It's Badgers, if they can get a win there, goes real close to solidifying a playoff spot, but it depends on what happens in other games. Same for Muncie. If they can get a win there, would go very close to solidifying a playoff spot. But with only one game, between 4 teams? Yeah. It's a pretty tight back end of the playoff picture there. In my opinion, I think 3 teams are pretty much in the playoffs at this point. Brooklyn, Detroit Wolverines, and the Staten Island Stapletons are probably in the playoffs. Which means there's pretty much... four teams vying for 3 playoff spots, in my opinion, with Detroit Panthers a really, really rough outside chance of making the playoffs. They need a few things to go their way. I think there's probably 3 really big games there. The Badgers Flyers, the Panthers and Redskins, and the Tigers and the Lions are probably the 3 biggest games of the week, and could go a fair way towards sorting out the playoff picture heading into next week. All right, we'll scroll down to the Brown Conference. Got here 3 teams of clinch playoff berths. The Dallas Texans, New York Cardex, and the Dayton Triangles. Varying places where they can land. Nothing's sort of sorted out there at all yet. The Triangles, a single win of any description in the next 2 weeks is enough to clinch the division and probably the number 2 seed in the playoffs. The Texans are playing the Cardex this week, I think it is. Yes. So a head-to-head win against the Cardex would be enough to win the division. 2 wins would probably be enough to take out the number 1 seed with Dayton a little bit behind on total points scored. So that with the 2-win break, odds are they're pretty close to the number 1 seed if they can take out the 2 wins this week. Cardex, if they can win and take 2 wins and the Texans get none, then all of a sudden it's completely open again. That could go either way. they would hold the current tiebreaker over the Texans with the points scored. So they're about 100 points in front of them, and it's significantly ahead of the Triangles as well. So that would push them very close to be just about being the number one seed. Depends on what happens with the Triangles. If they win both this week, if the Cardex was to win both games or pick up 2 wins, say the Texans didn't, you'd have a 3-way tie heading into the final week of the regular season. Let's not open up that can of worms before we have to. So, couple of big games there. Actually, the Triangles playing the Bulldogs as well. So that's a fairly important game for the Bulldogs, particularly. Very, very much in need of a win. Right in the back end of the playoff spots there. If playoffs started today, they would currently be the 6th seed. And with a team sitting behind them in the Houston Oilers, 2 wins behind, but with a little bit more points scored. So right now would have the tiebreaker advantage if they ended up on the same amount of wins. The Miami Seahawks at 12-8. They haven't clinched a playoff spot, but right now I think they pretty much need a win, and they're in the playoffs over the next 2 weeks. That's all they need. One single win. Doesn't have to be a head-to-head win. Can be just a bonus point win. That would be enough to keep them ahead of the Oilers and the Spartans. So really I think the main 2 teams that are in danger of missing the playoffs are the St. Louis Rams or the New York Bulldogs, that are currently sitting in a spot where they would be holding a playoff spot. The Oilers have a favourable run home. They play the Spartans, so pretty much one of those 2 teams is likely eliminated out of that matchup. And then play the Akron Pros in the last week, who it hasn't been a happy season for. Sitting at 4-16. Haven't scored a particularly high amount of points all season either, so Ken's Houston Oilers team would feel pretty good if they can walk away with a bonus point win this week and have a couple of results. Say if the Rams or the Bulldogs have an off week and open up that last playoff spot. But yeah, that's pretty much where we stand right now in the Brown Conference. In the Lombardi Conference, the Boston Redskins, 16-4, one of the better records in the league, actually. I'm not even sure. I haven't even looked at that. Who has got the best? 16-4 is pretty much going to be right at it. It is. So the Texans, Dallas Texans and the Boston Redskins are currently the best 2 records in the league. Bonus point win this week seals the division, but not the number 1 seed. Although definitely has a solid points advantage over the Hartford Blues, who are only a game behind. So if they were both to get bonus point wins this week, then it'd be still open up in week 12 as the final week of the regular season. The Racine Legion in the playoffs. That's what I've got written down anyway. Is that correct? It is. So there's only 6 teams at 10 wins or better. 13 wins, when your next best teams are at 8 and 12, pretty hard to climb over the top of a 5-win gap when there's only 4 wins left to get. So definitely in the playoffs, the Legion. From my own perspective, that's nice. It's nice to have a team or two that are already locked up into the playoff spot. So, and Matty's New York Yankees sitting right behind me there at 12 and 8, and probably only one win would be probably enough. It is, yes, one win would be enough for him to be in the playoffs. So bonus point win, head-to-head win, however it happens. Any form of victory over the next 2 weeks is enough to put the Yankees in the playoffs. Next up in line would be the Rochester Jeffersons and the Providence Steamrollers, with fuck all points between them, both on 10 and 10. What have they got matchup wise this week? Jefferson's playing the Staleys, who are on the outside looking in, but solid points well and truly keeps them in it. And the Steamrollers are playing the Blues. Massive, massive, massive game for the Steamrollers there. If they can roll the Blues, pinch 2 wins, depending on other results, that would go pretty damn close to sealing a playoff spot. And Jefferson's, they pretty much both would, if the Jeffersons and Steamrollers were to win, and the Bulldogs and obviously the Staleys would lose if they were playing Rochester anyway. So if the Jeffersons and Steamrollers can win and the other two lose, that basically wraps up the playoff race in this conference. The 2 8-win teams really need to get some form of win, even if it's only one this week. They have to get a win, and obviously hope that the Steamrollers and Jeffersons don't get a win at all. Not much has been decided outside of the Blues. Blues have won the division. They're still open for a couple of other things, but yeah, I don't know. So the Blues definitely won their division anyway. So, and the Redskins are pretty damn close to it as well. Last division or conference, Alice Conference. Very tough this conference actually. Because of the lack of wins from the Cleveland Rams and the Memphis Hound Dogs, there's a lot of wins for a lot of other teams. So, what do we got? 6 teams with 12 wins or more, which is easily better than any other conference. But like I say, those 2 bottom teams have combined for 4 wins together. So, the Dons would be definitely the number 1 seed with a win, I think, is enough, pretty much. Bonus point win would be more than ample. Like a bonus point, like 2 wins. The LA Dons are the number 1 seed. No one's going to pass their points for. So they win the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Buffalo Bison. If they were to lose this week, and they're playing the Hound Dogs, so I can't see how that would possibly happen. So, the Bison a win this week. Is that going to be right? Yes, a win this week, I think pretty much would seal a playoff spot for them, regardless of what happens with the Bulldogs, because a win for the Bison would push them to 14 wins and about a 400-point gap in points scored. So that's not going to get turned over in 2 weeks' time. So from the bottom end of the spectrum, the Washington Senators have to win pretty much bonus point wins, and the Boston Bulldogs, given their points scored, would need to do the exact same. I think they pretty much need to win out with bonus point wins. The points scored is not enough. They won't win a tiebreaker against pretty much anyone. So, for the Hammond Pros, a win of any description would pretty much seal the playoff spot. Cardinals, a double win, as well as the Pottsville Maroons. Double wins would seal both teams' playoff spots. Same as the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. I think the top 6 teams are pretty damn close to being in the playoffs already, but there is still a very remote chance for the Boston Bulldogs and the Washington Senators to make the playoffs. But yeah, they're pretty remote. I think the biggest matchups this week were the Cardinals and Pros, Bulldogs and Maroons, and the Bison and the Yellow Jackets. Probably results from those games will probably go pretty close to deciding the playoff spots this week, possibly. So, anyway, guys, that's all I got. I didn't want to have to sit here and type that out. So, all right, good luck, guys. Thank you.